Hey, hope everything's going well. Today, I'm actually going to end with a question, but I've got to do a preamble. Otherwise, you don't know what this is going to be all about. That's just how things work. So, what I used to do, I can probably say early 2010s. I had a bunch of different assignments. I mentioned before I was a independent consultant in healthcare finance, and I would go to places. Sometimes I'd be there for 3 months, sometimes 6 months, whatever. And then I would come home for a while, and I hated the process of having to cook and make meals all the time. Hated that. I hate it now, but in this case, it was somewhat different because what I used to do is I would make massive meals. So, for instance, I would make giant meatloaf. I would buy a whole bunch of packs of hamburger and put it all together and mix different things into it, onions and spices and whatever. And I would buy a bunch of cans of tomato sauce and I would put it all up, pour it all in there till it got to a certain point, put it in the oven, and basically let that cook in the oven for a little more than an hour. I would, pull it out every once in a while to test it, stick something in it to see if it is solidified. And then at a certain point, I would know, okay, it's done. And then I would pull it out. And the first night, I would basically cut, small piece out, have some mashed potatoes with it. And this would let me know if it came out okay. It always came out okay. So that was something I was really good at. Then what I would do is I bought a bunch of these containers. And what I would do is I would put all these containers out. I would put meatloaf in every container. I would put mashed potatoes in each container. And a lot of times I would also make some mixed vegetables. You got to be somewhat healthy, but I would do that. So I would end up sometimes with as much as, I'll say, 30 containers of that exact same thing. But it gave me a whole lot of meals. I obviously didn't eat it for breakfast, but sometimes I ate it for lunch. Sometimes I ate the same thing for dinner. Had no problem with it because it saved a lot of time. I knew I didn't have to worry about cooking anything. If I wanted to eat something different, I could. And like I said, I put it in the freezer so it lasted a good long time. Then I went to Memphis and I was there for a year and a half. I would come home every couple of weeks, sometimes every 3 weeks, a couple of times, once a week when something else was going on. But in general, I was in Memphis. And one of those things about Memphis is there's a lot of different types of food that you just had to try. At least I had to try. The one thing I ruled out immediately was pizza. Memphis knows nothing about making pizza. I hated all the pizza in Memphis. I stopped trying that. But they had tons of barbecue places. They had the chicken places. They had the dessert places. They had all this stuff. So that lasted a year and a half. And then when I came home, my ex was now doing same kind of work. She was traveling for her job. So now I'm home and I've got, some money in the bank and I just wasn't in the mood to make a big meal. I did make one where I put together, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I put this thing together, put all the containers in the freezer, basically ate maybe 3 or 4 of those, and then they just sat there. And it probably took me about a month and a half before I said, okay, I got to throw these things away because I'm never going to eat them. They're not meant to be around that long because then it gets the frost on it and you don't like how it tastes. And I've never been able to get back to a place where I can make monster meals and then put them in containers for a long time. I've tried all different kinds of things. Last weekend, for instance, I decided I was going to buy some pork ribs. I'd never been able to make it before. I'd always tried to cook it in the oven at slow temperature, and it came out, it was too hard, it was too dry, horrible. So this time I decided, let me look up another recipe and see if I can do it differently in a crock pot. So I read that, and it said, basically cook it on the lowest level you can for at least 9 hours. I could do that. And I season it my way. I don't like a lot of spicy stuff and whatever, but I use, garlic, garlic powder, onion powder, 2 different types of salt, one called garlic butter, which was kind of cool. And I didn't have any beef broth, but it turns out I didn't need it The recipe didn't say I needed it. And I let it cook for about 9 hours. Actually, probably 9.5 hours, because I had something else going on. I had some people who came to fix the roof. So it cooked. I was able to eat it. It was nice and tender. I had mashed potatoes. Yes, I buy mashed potatoes a lot, but truthfully, a lot of times I don't eat it and then I end up throwing it away. But this time I said I'm going to eat these things. So it was nice and tender. It was wonderful. I added extra barbecue sauce to it. And I said, wow, this is fantastic. Now, it only gave me 2 other meals because I didn't cook all of the, pork loin I got or pork ribs. I wanted to see if I followed everything to the letter that it would be good. So I put 4 in there. Now I have 3 left that are in the refrigerator, but I'm not in the mood to eat it. That's just me. And I'm glad that I only had the 3 servings because I didn't end up throwing anything away. When I had it a couple days later, I said, okay, I'm glad that's over with. I don't have to eat that for a while again. But I'm wondering, do any of y'all have anything that you put together these days that you will eat more than, I'll say, 3 times? Maybe you cook a lot of it and you will do it. Maybe you do something for your entire family, in which case you're probably not going to let it last more than 2 or 3 meals, but maybe you have something. And what do you do? I mean, do you do that type of thing, or do you just say, I'm just going to make something, and if I have leftovers for a couple of meals, I'm good with that? Because I just keep feeling like I'm wasting time having to fix everything else, and I won't do it. So I will pull out my Ritz crackers, and I'll either use peanut butter or tuna, and that's usually a big meal for me. In the morning, I will usually eat a bagel on days I don't work. I don't eat bagels on days I do work. And it's just a weird thing. I'm wondering, is it just me, or if other people do it that way, you don't want to put anything together where you're going to eat off of it for a good long time? Please let me know what you guys do. So yes, I'm asking you for assistance. Let me know. My name's Mitch Mitchell. One of the short ones today. Hope y'all have a wonderful day.